welcome back to a special After Dark episode of Let's Get Trashed.
Let's Get Trashed After Dark.
It's nighttime, folks. And we're bringing you the scariest or whatever movie content. I actually don't know how you feel about this. You and I haven't talked about this.
Yeah, we haven't talked about it at all yet.
None at all. So, but today, I don't even have any details. I can't even be like, today we're reviewing so-and-so's Smile. I don't even know who directed this.
Well, we have the power of the internet.
Yeah.
I even took notes, and I don't have the director here.
I did see... So I went to see it at Alamo Drafthouse last night, less than 24 hours ago. And he popped up on the screen with the star, and they were doing one of those thanks for coming to the movies.
They did that when I saw it, too, yeah. I mean, I also saw it at Alamo.
Oh, there you go.
Last week or something, so...
Yeah, that's more and more common. Obviously, Tom Cruise did that before Top Gun. Apparently, Nicole Kidman's had filmed something like that for AMC theaters.
Nicole Kidman, yeah, she had this now it has been parodied several times.
Is it fun? Is it like
short little? Yeah, it's just weird. It's just kind of awkward.
Really? I've never seen it.
It's funny. Yeah, you should check it out.
I've never been to an AMC theater. I don't know where.
I'm trying to think if I've been to an AMC. I think I have been to an AMC. Man, they're all the same though. I mean, You're in a big room. You're watching a movie. Sure,
I don't expect that part to be different. Although they're not all the same. I had to stop going to Regal cinemas.
Oh yeah,
because they don't turn the darn lights off.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, sometimes if you're sitting like right under one, and it's like just shining down on you the whole time.
And I like sitting on the aisle. I don't like to get in the middle of the theater. I just like the aisle. They have these, these running lights, these like lamps all across the top, which most movie theaters do. That's how they light them. But good movie theaters turn them off. But Regal doesn't. And I've even gone to the manager. I was like, "Why are the lights on? I'm trying to watch a fucking movie here, guy." And it's just, "Oh, we don't ever turn those lights off." Like, okay, well, I'm never coming back.
Wow. Okay, you heard it here.
Yeah, I can't. I don't want to watch anything in the daytime.
I feel that.
I don't want anybody to see me by myself at the movies at 1 in the afternoon.
Yeah, that's my quiet place that I go.
Yeah.
to be alone and in private.
Yeah, I got. How else am I gonna sneak in 3 separate flasks full of whiskey? And my own.
How am I gonna get drunk in the middle of the day watching Bridesmaids?
The Bridesmaids director's cut with so I can eat peanut butter M&Ms, which they don't sell at the theater. No. Yeah, Parker Finn wrote and directed Smile. So he is a
I have not heard of this guy.
I've never heard of him either, which means let's find out what else he's done, if anything. Again, horror is a pretty good genre to like get your first big hit on. Let's look at his all filmography. He's directed 3 things: Smile and 2 short films, which I've never heard of. So this is his first feature.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it is cool.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah, good for him. It was very competently done.
I think is it a hit? I think it's probably a hit as far as reception, box office stuff, what people are enjoying about it, right?
Yeah, it's got like I'm seeing here 79% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is pretty good.
Yeah,
especially for a horror movie.
My roommate told me that it was the scariest movie she's ever seen, and I can certainly empathize with that.
Yeah, it's pretty scary. It's got some great scenes. It has a couple of really good scenes, I think, that like kind of elevate it. Most of the scary scenes in this, I think, were a little bit more run of the mill.
Well, I will say, and this isn't spoilers yet, but I'll say right off the bat, off the top, it's jump scare heavy.
Oh yeah,
it's heavy on they're putting a shocking thing on the screen to make you jump, or they're doing that thing where everybody in the theater you can clearly, you think they're about to do the jump scare.
Yeah.
You're expecting, like, as soon as this camera turns to the left, there's going to be something over her shoulder, and we're going to jump. you're expecting it and they just don't do it.
They do like that. Yeah, there's a a slow pan, and the music swells,
Yeah.
and then it's nothing. The scene changes or something like that.
Right. So they do that. I'm gonna conservatively say 40,000 times in this movie. It's either the actual jump scare or it's the fake out jump scare. So it's heavy on that.
There's a lot of fake outs. It's heavy fake out.
Which you're more of a horror aficionado than I am. I do know that the jump scare is like, while kind of necessary, it's also a thing horror fans consider to be like, is that cheap? What are we?
I think that there's fun ways to do anything. I think there's some really good jump scares. There's ways to do a jump scare. I think my favorite jump scare of all time is probably from It Follows, which kind of relates to how I feel about this movie. But have you seen it? It Follows?
I have not.
Oh man, It Follows is one of the movies that kicked off the art house horror like craze of modern times in 2014.
Okay, so it's like 8 years old then.
Yeah. But it's a great movie. It's without going into too many spoilers or anything. It's about a girl who, she's a teenager and she's with her boyfriend and they're about to have sex for the first time and she's really nervous. And they do it, but afterwards she's knocked out, wakes up tied to a chair with this guy.
With her boyfriend?
With her boyfriend, this like older college guy she's been seeing.
He's also tied up.
No, he's just standing there.
Oh, okay.
And he's standing there and he's like, hey, listen, I'm cursed. I'm followed around by this thing and it can look like anybody, but it will follow me. It follows me and it just walks slowly, but it follows me all the time.
Interesting.
And now it's your curse because I got it from someone by having sex with them. And he's like, you can have sex with someone and pass it on, but if it kills them, it's going to come back to you. And if it gets you, it kills you.
Oh, okay. So right off the bat, first of all, two things that reminds me of. It's not even like a riddle. I don't think it's a riddle. It's just one of those, I guess, thought experiments where it's like, if you had a snail chasing you.
yeah, like an unkillable snail chasing you.
An unkillable snail chasing you. It's going slow. It's going a snail's pace.
Yeah.
But if it touches you, it kills you. So what do? I mean, I guess you move to China for 10 years and get it on its way, then move back to wherever you want to live. Like, you just got to avoid this thing.
Yeah, a philosophical story that probably comes to us from some Redditor. But yeah. Like, what do? You're being chased forever by some sort of very slow-moving thing.
So, same thing. It seems like this curse is chasing this person. And then the other aspect is, kind of not fair because women can give away that curse a lot easier.
the ST demon.
Yeah, the ST demon.
I can't take credit for that phrase, but that's what people connected to the film have kind of unofficially titled the monster. From
Interesting. That's very funny. Yeah, sexually transited curse is very, very funny.
Yeah.
But that is, you're right. That is a similar.
Yeah, the idea of passing someone like a chain, passing something to someone else, and
which is a theme in this movie that we'll get into in a little bit. But let's start. Let's do another thing because you just mentioned It Follows. I guess our protagonist is a woman in that.
Yeah.
I watched a movie earlier this year called Men.
Oh yeah.
Also, a protagonist is a woman.
I liked Men. It was a good movie.
Yeah, it was pretty good. It was interesting. I didn't love the end, but and also the theme. It's kind of nail on the head. All men are the same. We get it.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was definitely not very shy with its symbolism at all.
Yeah. But it was still a good movie. I still enjoyed it. Again, even as a guy that's not like, I'm more and more of a horror viewer in my nowadays. As I seek out art house movies and there's no other option for me.
Yeah.
I just watched Bullet Train and I was just like, I wish it was Bullet into my brain instead.
Yeah, that didn't look great.
It sucks. That episode's probably already out by the time this one comes out. So check out the Let's Get Trashed on Bullet Train with me and Clarence Riley the fourth. But yeah. So as there's fewer and fewer, artistic films that are like one-offs that aren't less. Horror is the only genre that's making these kinds of things, making these types of stories. That's in.
Yeah. There's a lot of envelope pushing in horror, and I think part of it is because like you can. Part of horror is pushing that envelope, like doing things that will shock people,
Right.
Or there's something you've never seen before.
But women are leading characters in a lot of, stellar horror films.
Yes, yeah. There's probably a lot of great and not so great reasons for that tradition, I'm sure.
Yeah, is it could easily be. It could easily be like it's scarier. You know what? I guess it's scarier if it's happening to a woman, because if it's happening to me, if it's happening to a guy, it's just like I don't even care, dude. Just guy with the knife in your closet, just come kill me, man. I don't even fucking want to do this. But it's easier to. I guess we either primally or patriarchally feel bad for women when they're going through tough times.
Yeah. It's a cliche, and I think it's a cliche that can get challenged, like in fun ways, like, it's this woman, and she's being attacked, but then she turns the tables, and there's a lot of great movies that kind of have that like twist on it. This movie actually does a good job with that too, I will say.
I think so. I thought she was very. At no point did I consider her to be like a damsel type character.
Yeah, definitely.
She's going through a rough time and she's not always handling it well, but who among us would?
Yeah.
At no point is she like she needs somebody to rescue her. Or she does, but she doesn't know it. But she's also not like, if I had to pick my favorite horror movie, it would be The Shining probably. Or also I consider this to be a horror film, as do most people. This is not I didn't invent anything right now. Alien.
Yeah.
Which that's the best, like that's the most badass like female protagonist in any film series ever is
Ripley.
It's Ripley.
Yeah. She's great.
And Alien is I like Alien better than Aliens because Aliens is just machine guns and
interesting
killing about the alien. Which again, it's more fun. Aliens is way more fun.
Yeah, but Alien is the more sort of.
Yeah, but James Cameron is he's fun. He sucks. But he's like he's an entertaining guy, whereas Ridley Scott also sucks, but he's so good at certain things, and he has great moments throughout his career, and Alien is one of them. That's just like
Alien is, I would say a seminal moment in his career.
Yeah,
and for horror too, like big for horror.
Yeah, that was great. So let's kind of set the scene. Smile, a film that deals a lot with, a lot of things we talk about in our modern day society, a lot of buzzwords. It's very common to hear. It's not uncommon to hear lay people talking about psychological things and psychological tropes. And, the word trauma is arguably the most overused word in our language now.
Yeah.
And this movie does nothing to abate that. But, it's kind of earned. It is a psychological kind of horror film, and it's starring our main character is a psych ward doctor.
Yeah. She's presented to us as somebody who is obsessed with helping people.
Yeah, she's a workaholic psych doctor in a hospital. So not even private practice. She's not Fraser or Niles. She's she's in it working with like emergency cases.
And she's and they really hammer it home that she could like make more money doing something else. I think her sister mentions it to her early on in the film, and other people mention it to her throughout, but she's she's probably still making plenty of money, but
I don't know.
She's clearly chosen something where it's more important for her to be able to, to help people than it is for her to make money with it.
Yeah. So we have a woman who's passionate about this career, and it's set up early on, and not too long into it, they don't waste a lot of time. As a matter of fact, before the opening credits, before the opening title card, which is, I didn't even expect to see a title card, so I actually kind of like that. But before the title card, we have our inciting incident, which is our main character, whose name I've promptly forgotten. What the? I will want to reference her in a second. Rose. Dr. Rose Cotter. So, Dr. Rose, she has an emergency patient. They bring a woman in off an ambulance. You know, she witnessed something. She kind of went crazy.
She had like a public outburst, right?
She had a public outburst. That's what it was. She had a public outburst. She's going through a tough time. She's having a meltdown. Dr. Rose takes her into the observation room, or the first communication room. It's just it's a couple chairs with a table in between and a vase. A very austere, very calming room. Let's sit down and have a talk. Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Let's get you to let's manage your your tension and emotion right now, and then we'll address treatment plans. But she's in the I'm trying to calm this chick down stage. And then the girl is, I think she's like a college aged girl. Yep, she's a college kid.
She's going off, basically trying to tell Rose that she's being hunted by some sort of entity.
Yep. She's having vision. She's seeing a thing that is following her around and chasing her. And at some point, you know, Dr. Rose tries to dissuade her of that notion. The woman has a particular spasm. Just realized what that was. She freaks out, and she's like screaming, you know, backing up against the wall. Rose gets out of her chair, runs over to the phone, takes her eyes off her patient, camera off the patient. She's on the emergency phone. I need the stat cart. I need some guys in white uniforms. I need some overalls to get down here quick.
The burly men who work at every hospital who grab people.
Yeah, I need the dude with the straitjacket. we have someone who's gonna injure herself and maybe me and whatever. She turns back around. Her patient is no longer writhing on the floor. She's standing there with a bit of broken vase from earlier.
Yeah.
And she has a big smile on her face. One could say a very creepy smile.
I'm picture when I saw that, and knowing what the movie is going to be about with all the creepy smiles, I was like, man, they had to. And when they're casting this movie, they're like, okay, smile your creepiest smile, like
100%. That was definitely part of the casting. It's like, let me see. This movie's all about a creepy smile monster thing. Let me see your big smile, and it's like a scary smile. I need dead eyes. I need that 1,000-yard stare eye too. And anyway, this girl with a big smile on her face cuts her own throat in front of Rose. They're looking at each other.
Super graphic, like
very graphic.
They don't shy away from it,
which I appreciated. This woman's jamming. It's a graphic film. It's jamming the thing in. They're not like. It's not panning over to the window with a spurt of blood into the frame. It's
earn that R rating.
We're doing it. Yeah, we're doing it. And so now Dr. Rose, our protagonist, has witnessed this thing, and it's obviously just a bummer of a day at her office.
and that's when the title card comes up.
And then we see Smile, and.
That first scene is very powerful.
Yeah, I thought it was really good. Really good. We also get to, right after that, we get a little bit more context. In addition to being a, hospital therapist, she's also very particular about language. So she's being interviewed by the two cops, one of whom is we
learn later is her ex-boyfriend.
Which is already not she's already not happy to see him or the woman kill herself. But then of course the cops are, being cops, being like, all right, so what made her go crazy? And then of course you have to, I don't use the word crazy in my practice, blah blah blah, and it's like, come on, lady, you know what? Keep your language to yourself. Just give me the information I need so I can fill my report out and get out of here.
Yeah, well, and the funny thing is too, like the about that scene is that she's not crazy.
Yes, well, of course. We find the whole conceit of the horror film is that there actually is something predating upon us.
And I mean, you'll see, it's great too, because you see all these horrible things that happen to the characters in this movie. You can then later on be like, oh, they all happened to this girl before the movie even started.
Yeah, but that's the debate. Obviously, in the world of this horror film, in the world of Smile, it turns out she's not crazy. But in the real world, she would be.
She would be.
And maybe crazy is not the medical term for it, but either way, that's the battle she's fighting. Or that's a battle she's want to fight, which is anytime somebody uses casual language about mental health, she is quick to correct them.
Yeah.
Which also in real life is not a very endearing trait, I got to tell you folks. But that's just my personal stance. I won't even say that it's official Let's Get Trashed policy like I normally do with all my personal stances.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, that's our setup. And she's having a tough day. Her boss, Cal Penn. Welcome back to the world of film, Cal Penn.
Yeah, Cal Penn being in this or being in anything always blows my mind. This is the man who has done it all, really, at this point, right? From working at the White House.
Yeah.
From going to Harold and Kumar to the White House to back to film.
Well, has he done anything? Has he done something more recently than this? Because when I saw him, I was like, I thought this was his first. I saw it going, oh shit, he's back in film now. He's I figured because obviously, so he left the world of stoner comedy to go work in the Obama White House as like a youth outreach.
Yeah.
As if like, again, how out of touch any administration is, but especially like the cool Obama administration is like, kids are gonna love, like, let's get Kumar,
let's get Harold Kumar. Yeah.
If Kumar works for the White House, they're gonna think that's sick, and we're definitely gonna get young voters on our side for years to come. And obviously it plans failed spectacularly for them in 2016,
and that's why we blame Cal Penn for Trump.
It's Cal Penn's fault.
Official policy.
That's official. Let's Get Trashed. This is the official Let's Get Trashed. We're blaming Cal Penn for Trump,
for the entire Trump administration. It's
because Obama thought Cal Penn was way cooler than any young voter.
He's cool in this. I mean, he's okay.
He does a good job. He's always been a fine actor. He's funny. I've seen him in a couple sitcoms. He has some things here and there.
Yeah.
He was on that hospital show. That's actually what he left. He was doing a hospital show. Hugh Laurie's a genius, mean doctor. He's a genius.
House?
Yeah, House. He left House to halfway through that series run to go work at the White House. That's what he was. Harold and Kumar had been already filmed and released before that. Nevertheless, he's back here. Pretty stable, authoritative figure. He's just the boss of the hospital wing.
He's like such a chill boss too. I love him. He's like just like you think he's gonna be a hard ass in the beginning, then he's like, no, I'm cool.
Yeah, he seems like what I did like about it is he's pretty reasonable.
Yeah,
it seems like a realistic boss. He does care about his employees, but he also is like, look, you can't keep throwing uninsured people into the thing. I gotta every time you do that, I gotta talk to the board. So it starts off, you could easily think, oh, he's an unthinking, unfeeling, whatever hospital bureaucrat, and he is, but he's also more than that, which is what makes it realistic.
Yeah,
because that everybody in that position in real life does have to fight both those battles of like, this hospital has to make money, and yes, obviously I care about people and want to help them, but what am I supposed to do? I'm not the one that created private health insurance, like, you know. So that was, yeah, he seems like a realistic boss. He was fine in this. I think he could have been anybody, but he was fine.
It's honestly a little bit distracting that it's Cal Ben. Like,
he's the one star. He's the only famous guy in the movie.
Yeah, he's the most famous one in the movie. There are a couple of character actors. We'll get to that later, but there are some character actors who've been in a lot of other stuff. But
anyway, but yeah. So now we're at our thing. She's got to take some time off because she's not handling it well, and then all the symptoms that our young victim at the beginning of the film exhibited or said she was exhibiting. Now our protagonist, Dr. Rose, is also exhibiting. We're seeing, I'm seeing things. And I guess from this point on, folks, we've given you a bit of atmosphere. It's a very well done film. It's very pretty looking. It's not like too. I say the word filter on this show a lot because I hate when they just filter something and it all looks kind of the same color.
All gray.
Yeah, I hate gray. It's always yellow for like Mexico or anything that's kind of desert. They do a yellow kind of thing.
Yeah.
I hate any kind of cheap stuff like that. I didn't notice any of that. It just seems like real. I mean, it's a little bit. It's a little urban, so it's a lot of gray hospital buildings and asphalt, but they didn't do that to the camera. That's just real life.
Yeah, it was. It looked good. I think it looked like there's a trend, I think, too, in movies to have it like just be like filterless, focus on, you know, they have a lot of scares in like bright environments here, daytime horror. I know you're a big fan.
I am, absolutely. Another thing I will say, there's a lot of the one thing I was thinking in my head was like, pull the camera back, but not in a bad way. I was scared. I'm a scaredy cat, folks. But I was like, the camera's too close and I know something's going to happen. It's a lot of close up. It's a lot of like, we're getting very intense facial performances. Even during that first interview scene between our the eventual deceased and our main character, it's just, the camera's not pulled back. It's not The Sopranos where we have our therapist and we have Tony and they're both in frame from a distance. It's
close up faces.
It's close up, dead on center face patient, close up, dead on center face concerned doctor, back and forth, A, B. It's just doing both of those, which means both of these actors are performing directly into a camera, which is tough, and they both did it very well. But it's tough. It's very close. It makes you feel a little bit claustrophobic, at least as far as being around the people. It feels like you're like an invasion of somebody's space. And then I guess another thing before we get into spoilers, one little thing I noticed that was a camera thing. She's driving home after her traumatic day at the office, and she's driving through country roads to her beautiful house in the country. And then the camera is following her car, and then as it goes down the road, the camera flips, and it's almost like the whole world gets turned upside down. And wouldn't you know it, that was a little on the nose.
Oh man, dude, wow. I mean, I'm gonna go off on these upside down shots. There are at least 3 upside down shots in this movie, and it is too much.
It's too much. It's a little on the nose, right? Because I'm watching it going, oh my god, and then it pulls back. You can really see the horizon, and it like goes far, and it's like, oh wow, her whole world is turned upside down, huh? How about that? Way to.
Yeah, this is beginning to betray my real feelings about this film right now. But I think I saw that shot and I had sort of groaned in my head, and I was like, I think I'm starting to get a little worried about certain aspects of this movie.
So because that's the thing is, let's be honest, it didn't need it. we were all on board. We all understood that from an empathetic point of view. We all understood that she's having a bad day.
Yeah.
We know that something's around the corner that's going to make it even worse for her. We can understand the on the nose, like her upside down tracking shot of her car where the world literally looks like it's upside down. It's sky on the bottom of the screen, green.
If that was the first time I was seeing that shot, specifically in a horror movie, I would be like, oh, whoa.
Oh, I see. So you're even coming from a place of it's cliche. You've seen it a bunch.
I've seen it a lot.
Oh,
they
really?
They use it in a lot of films.
I didn't know that.
It's a popular shot for horror movies, and it's a popular shot to let you know that the characters are now entering like a new part of the movie. Something's happened and everything has changed, and it happens so much. They do a wonderful upside down shot in the beginning of the movie Devil, which is an awesome like one room horror movie written by M. Night Shyamalan. They do not directed, written, but it's really good.
Interesting.
Yeah, they do a wonderful upside down shot in Midsummer. They do upside down shots in I had this written down somewhere, but it's a pretty common horror trope. It's common in movies in general, but you see it a lot in horror, and a lot specifically to say like, oh, shit's real now.
Yeah, we're into,
And there are at least 3 of them in this movie.
It happened 3 times that I kept track of. It could have been more.
It could have been more.
But I don't remember. I've seen Midsummer. I didn't remember particularly that exact shot, but
it's when they're driving, they're on their road trip and they're first driving to meet before they do the mushrooms.
Oh, so after they land in Sweden, they're driving to their thing. Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's a very similar shot because it's driving the car
through country roads,
and the camera slowly flips.
Camera's up above, and then it follows it, and then as the camera follows the car, it's now.
Yep.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, that's exactly the same thing. It's exactly that turning point of we go from real life to this horrific experience.
Yeah, I mean it's effective. It's effective. I mean that's why people do it.
Yeah.
But a little on the nose and definitely cliched.
Okay. Well, I've definitely found it on the nose, and I'm not. Like I said, I don't analyze a ton of horror shots. But yeah, that stuck out to me, and then I guess we should. What should we? Well, because if we want to, we're going to do a little spoiler section now, folks. We're going to go into spoilers just to talk a brief plot synopsis. I don't even think we need to go. Maybe we kind of do. We're not going to give too much of the plot away, but yeah. So from right now, if you're listening to this or watching this on YouTube, Let's Get Trash on YouTube, go ahead and skip to
1 hour, 13 minutes, and 59 seconds.
To avoid spoilers. And I'll voice over so you'll hear the number. Skip to that time spot. Okay.
Yeah, we'll just play it fast and loose, baby. See how it goes.
Go into it. So yeah, turns out, young woman early in the movie, she was right. There was something chasing her.
Well, I think that the way that they first start to reveal how this is happening in the film is actually really fun, because she learns that this woman recently witnessed someone kill themselves.
Yeah, witnessed a suicide.
Yeah. Her professor beat himself to death with a hammer.
Yes.
Right in front of her, and they show a great, they'll describe something and then show a very grisly image of the aftermath.
Yeah. Set design, we see a lot of photos, and we see a lot of like dead bodies in corners of stuff like that were like placed there, and a lot of photography of that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. This, almost diegetic photography of previous events is actually really well done.
Yeah.
It's very blood. I mean, I don't even know how realistic. I don't know how much blood is in a human body, if I'm being totally honest. But it looks great on film when you see a lot of it.
It's a perfectly acceptable thing not to know.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
She goes to visit the professor's wife, And she learns that he had this same idea of something following him. And on top of that, she learns that he had recently witnessed someone kill themselves in front of him.
Right.
And so you start to get this idea even before the movie starts to, explicitly tell you that this is a chain, that this is something that is passed along, and now it's attached to her, and at first she doesn't really want to believe it, but she's seeing more and more strange things.
Right. So she goes to her police officer ex-boyfriend and asks him to look up. She's like, just follow this chain. This dude died. What does the police report say? Or this woman died. What does the police report say? And she's like, she killed herself a week before. She was in another police report witnessing a man kill himself. Here's the footage. And again, it's a dude with a big smile on his face.
Yeah.
Cutting his own throat right in front of this woman.
Good scene too.
It was pretty good because that's all security camera footage.
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool. They zoom in on his face, and he's smiling, just like her dead patient. And then it turns out, who's this guy? If you keep following it back, so cop boyfriend's on the case. He's following it back. He finds like 20 of these.
Yeah, like going back and.
20 weeks basically, because the gestation period is about a week. In this,
yeah. So
we're told.
What does he tell her eventually? Like, no one's made it longer than a week.
It's between 4 days and a week.
Yeah.
Is the gestation period from when you see a suicide to when you are committing your own. And so that's kind of the whole thing. There's one guy that broke that chain. They go to talk to him and find out what did he do differently.
And of course, while all of this is happening too, she's sort of having a breakdown. And the people in her life, basically everybody in her life except for her ex-boyfriend, is convinced that it has something to do with this past trauma that is hinted at throughout the film.
Right. Well, in addition to her current trauma of just seeing her patient brutally commit suicide, but there's also her and her sister obviously are having she has a sister. Their mother committed suicide when they were younger. So that's kind of the catalyst of her whole life that sent her into mental health care in the first place.
Yeah, and you get the idea that maybe her sister wasn't around as much, and she was forced to kind of take care of her mother. She mentions how her mother had like problems with mental illness and was, unstable. And as the film goes on, you kind of get more and more of this tragic backstory,
right?
That these two girls had to deal with their mother who was just, losing it.
Yeah, and it does feel kind of real, in the sense that it not necessarily real, like, but it that's a pretty reasonable motivation for a young person to enter healthcare fields. It happens to a lot of people. You're around sickness when you're younger. That becomes kind of like a capstone or a cornerstone of something that's important to you. You tend to pursue medical fields, something like that.
I hadn't heard that. That's cool.
It's certainly not everybody, but it's not uncommon. And even if it's completely untrue, it makes it makes sense as a cinematic motivation.
Yeah.
Which is all I care about.
I think I'm going to start prefacing more statements with, and even if everything I just said is a lie.
Completely. Yeah, exactly. Because the important part isn't whether it's true or not. The important part is whether it makes sense to a film's character.
It's what do they call that? Verisimilitude.
Yep, exactly.
It's
verisimilitude. Yeah, as long as the motivation makes sense, I'm fine with it. That's all I need. That's all I ask for, is for characters to have believable, reasonable motivations. And I've said that on almost every episode of this podcast.
And the scene with her sister has another one of my favorite scenes in the film, and also, or the whole sort of act, I guess you would say, that between her and her sister. Where she goes to her nephew's birthday party and kind of, starts seeing things there.
Yeah.
Has a freak out, ends up, accidentally or intentionally or, because of the entity or whatever, wrapping up her dead cat and giving it to her nephew.
Yep, that was wild. That was what's so funny. I didn't see that coming at all. It literally didn't even occur to me.
Man, I watch too many horror movies because I was like, the second she has the package and she gives it to him, I'm like, cat's in the package.
Wow. Because you know what, the talk. I was off camera. I was telling Andres about a very talkative couple in my theater, yeah. And right after that moment, I heard not the woman. The woman was the one that talked the most, but this time it was the dude, and he goes, I knew it was going to be that cat the whole time. And then it wasn't until he said that when it even occurred to me. It was like, oh, I might be the only guy that this worked on. Because I was like, oh shit, cat.
It's fun though. I think even if you know something like that's coming, there's that you can still have fun with it because you're like, oh, am I right?
I was too busy scribbling jokes because the sister goes, she's like, if you want to buy your nephew a present, he loves electric trains. And then I just wrote on my notes, my son loves electric trains because he's from the 40s. Like,
no, it's weird for, you'd think a kid now would be into like video games or Fortnite or something, Fortnite or Minecraft or something.
It could be literally anything else but this old timey
Where
electric
do you even
train.
get an electric train anymore?
Apparently nowhere, because I'm starting to question that entire sequence where she goes and buys the train. Was that all hallucination?
It's tough to say. There's a lot of they play pretty fast and loose in this movie with hallucinations.
Yeah, we don't know what's a real scene, what's not. There's a lot of like, I don't know. It almost gets into like Ally McBeal territory, where she plays out this entire hallucination scene and then she snaps back to wherever she was.
Oh yeah,
which was a big thing. And Ally McBeal was the only sitcom I know that was like famous for it. But also, I guess Dumb and Dumber also did it. They had these like visions of beating the hell out of somebody, and then
they did it in Twilight.
I never saw the movie Twilight.
Yeah,
I haven't seen those yet, but I'm going to because it has my two favorite actors.
One of my favorite horror movies, actually, they do something similar to that, and we'll talk about it when we get to talking about that scene. But the birthday party, the two scenes I wanted to talk about specifically in the birthday party, my favorite scene and the scene that kind of bothered me.
Okay.
The scene that kind of bothered me was, and I thought this was a fun scene, but after I saw it, I was like, man, it feels like I've seen this before. But it's the scene where she goes back into her car after talking to her sister, and you see her sister come out and start walking towards the car. And you're like, oh, she's gonna, they just had an argument. She's like, oh, she's gonna reconcile or something, and she comes
or
and
another confrontation.
Yeah, she knocks on the window, and then when Rose looks at her head drops down.
Yeah, her neck snaps.
Her neck snaps.
Her head's just dangling.
Is dangling. Yeah. And I love that scene. I
thought, that definitely got me.
And I realized the reason I like that scene is because it is almost the exact copy of another shot from a movie that came out in 2020 called Terrified, an Argentinian film.
Okay.
Where there's a group of paranormal researchers that are trying to figure out these, uncover these demons that have taken up residence in this neighborhood. It's a fun movie. It's actually really good. But there's a scene where a guy goes to his car and you see a woman who you thought was dead walking out to the car towards him. Uh-huh. And then when she gets closer, her head drops down below the window and you see her broken neck.
Okay.
It's a very similar scene.
Interesting. Yeah. So you think that could have been borrowed?
I think it maybe was borrowed. It's not, it's different enough. It's not like, the exact same shot, but it's very similar. And it's just,
I've got another, I don't know how, whether the scene, the framing or anything was that borrowed, but the content was, straight from it. So she's revisiting her patient. She's revisiting her session with the patient that killed herself, and she doesn't have video, but she has audio.
Yeah.
And so she's got her headphones on. First of all, this woman loves, considering all this scary shit, this woman loves having all the lights off in her house.
All the lights off in her house, like one light.
She's a very lights off, headphones on type of woman. which is not an ideal type of person, not an ideal archetype. All right, lady, for the circumstances you find yourself in. But anyway, so she's listening intently in her headphones to the audio of the suicide that she witnessed, and I'm thinking it's like this is like Blowout. This is Travolta in Blowout, listening over and over and over again, like kind of driving herself crazy. Which Blowout's an incredible movie.
You talked about Blowout actually in the last episode.
Did I really?
That we did together. At
Oh
least.
shit! I'm gonna bring it up a lot.
A tradition. No, I have to see it. I haven't.
You'd love
seen
it. You'd love it. It's great. It's really, really good. But just that scene of like listening to audio, headphones on, darkened room, and then something happens that like freaks her out.
Give me. I don't know if you ever saw the film Sinister, but I was getting sort of some Sinister vibes from that scene as well too.
Okay.
Another great horror film.
And so that was Broken Neck was the scene that you loved or bothered you.
So
or both?
that was the one that bothered me. The one I liked comes directly right after that, where this happens, and then she's in her car, sort of screaming. And they do a fun thing where they show you the nephew sitting in the house watching her freak out.
I like that
and
too.
And he's freaking out. And I think that was fun because this movie borrows from a lot of other horror movies. And then that's my big problem with it. Spoiler for my eventual feelings about it.
No, get into it. Yeah.
But that scene, I think, is one of the more fun, one of the more sort of scenes that's more identifies with this movie in particular. And in particular, the idea of passing trauma on to the people around you.
Yes. Well, that is the central theme of it.
That's the core premise. But it's great because this isn't trauma. This is an evil demon trauma that she's giving to this kid. He's just seeing her freaking out, and that's freaking him out.
Right. I like that too. I honestly thought that was gonna play in bigger. I thought they were gonna go from so you're seeing this boy looking out through the window. He sees his aunt, who previously destroyed his birthday party. She's now in her car after fighting with his mom, and he sees her just hitting the steering wheel and screaming and shaking and going, and he's just watching this. And first of all, obviously he's not going to be happy about it.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing that can damage, or not even damage a kid, but it's his 9th birthday. He doesn't even understand these depths of human emotions that are capable. But also, I thought, all right, that's going to be the next thing. This is before we figured out exactly how it was transmitted.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, somehow, some way, we're going from. I was convinced that they're going to pass it to the boy at some point.
The boy.
I thought we're going from the beset upon woman to our next victims are going to be even more of a sympathetic figure, which is a child.
Was a child.
I thought they were going to go that way.
Honestly, that could have been a fun wrinkle. I could have seen that being interesting.
It could have. It could have. We could talk about how that might have happened at the end. If
write our own fanfic for the movie.
Yeah. Well, so at the very end, instead of, because it's her childhood home. We know there's an APB out looking for this missing woman. Mm-hmm. She went crazy. Doctor called, all this kind of stuff. Nobody knows where she went except maybe her sister. So sister, husband, and the kid, let's drive out to mom's house. Maybe she's out there having a breakdown. Mm-hmm. Kid opens the door first. Then he sees the ending scene.
Yeah.
As opposed to the character that did. That'd be a dickwad way of doing it, but it is what it is. Yeah. So, sorry, I'm looking through my notes. Some of them are only funny to me.
Sometimes those are the best kind of notes.
Yeah. So anyway, what we've discovered, or what our protagonist has discovered, is that we're getting. She only has a few days. She's gonna be haunted by this monster until she kills herself, and then when she does kill herself, whoever she is around is gonna witness it, and then they're gonna catch it.
Yeah. So, we're sort of learning the rules of, the rules of the game, the rules of the monster. It needs to have someone see its last, victim kill themselves in order to be passed on to them.
Right. Which is a hell of a scenario.
Yeah, and it's cool because it's like the movie's about trauma, which is great because it's like not only when you see this thing, you pick up some trauma, but you also pick up a demon, like, which is fun, and it's kind of like It Follows, you're picking up something that
right
that is now attached to you.
Yeah, I'll also say I got to the conclusion a lot faster than Dr. Rose got to her conclusion. Because what she says, it takes her a long time to figure out, well, I can just end this whole thing. If I kill myself by myself where nobody else is around, then this thing is powerless. It can't hop to anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
I came up with that plan instantly. But I'm constantly like, I'll just kill myself. if I'm having a bad day, I'm like, I might just drive this one off a cliff. I don't even care. But I immediately thought of that. I was like, what's the big deal? Just go kill yourself when nobody's around. Or I also thought of I was laughing in the theaters thinking about there's a great Nick Swardson joke. Nick Swardson is a comedian. He was from Reno 911 as Terry in Roller Skates. Great stand-up comic, and he had a joke about committing suicide in public. He's like, I would never commit suicide, but if I did, I would go into a super crowded public place with a gun, and I would yell at the top of my lungs, "Who fucking farted?" And then I would blow my brains out in front of everybody. And then everybody would see it, and everybody's initial reaction would be like, "Oh my God, cover your nose. Somebody farted. That dude killed himself." Like, and just he'd be like, yeah, just thousands of people all talking about it, and that's such a funny thing to shout right before you do it. And I was like, that'd be sick. How funny would it be to do that in this movie? And now hundreds of people have this demon.
Give everybody the demon.
Yeah. Now we're really fucking up this, the food chain.
Yeah, no, it's without its natural predators.
Yeah, well, it's just too. Now everybody's got one of these smile demons. Humanity will be gone in 8 weeks.
Yeah, it's like when they put the Ring video on the internet and the Ring 3 or whatever. Right. Whenever that happens.
Did that happen?
It happens in one of them, I think.
I've also never seen those.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, putting the Ring video on TikTok and just gets 700 million hits and just everybody in the world is dead in a week. That would be funny. Or sad or whatever.
That's the fun thing about horror movies is that, like, in any other situation, people dying is of course very sad. Yeah. But in a horror movie, it can be, a joke.
Well, especially if it's in a charming way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like, just go kill yourself somewhere else. And obviously you're not going to make it, but
Yeah, I mean, look, the horror movie protagonist in this movie especially could have solved everything by just killing themselves before the monster or the smile monster makes them. But
yeah,
that's the human will to survive,
That's true. Well, nobody else except for that one dude in prison had done the research that she had. He was the one that let her know, which I thought they should have gone further down this road. But the one guy that survived this chain of 20 suicides, suicide, 4 days, suicide. The one guy that survived it, he killed somebody else. He did some quick research and figured it out because he found one of these chains that happened 20 years ago in South America. But he's like, I can also get rid of it by killing somebody else.
As long as it's in front of another person.
Yeah. So I can, instead of killing myself in front of one person, there's got to be 3 of us in a room and I got to kill one of them. And then the third party gets it. I don't know how he figured that out. It's a hell of a gamble to take.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to die in a horrible way anyway. And he's, I guess, just happy to I would rather go to prison than
Yeah, that's the other thing.
for
is
life than deal with this thing.
You're happier to just live it. I don't know. You're going to jail for life. You definitely leave You definitely leave the South if you're doing that, because you got to be like, I got to get to a state where they don't execute prisoners.
Yeah.
So you gotta leave town. I don't know where this. They might be in Massachusetts. He might be safe. They're in. It looks like Northeast something.
Yeah. I thought maybe it was, like a Canadian city.
Oh, okay.
That's I wasn't sure what city that they were in, but
Yeah,
I don't know.
They never told us.
They don't. Yeah, they might show it a little bit, but
It definitely wasn't a Canadian city because Kumar is giving her shit about the patient
oh
not
yeah,
having
you're
insurance.
right. In Canada, that wouldn't be
Yeah,
an
it
issue.
wouldn't even be a
You're
problem.
right.
Yeah, so
In Canada, this movie would be very short. They'd be like, and everyone got all the help they needed.
Yeah, everybody went to the hospital. Everybody got prescriptions at a reasonable rate, and everybody was fine.
That's why they don't get smile demons up in Canada.
Yeah. Yeah, so we've got that. And then, so anyway, she goes back to her childhood home to confront this demon. It's just me and you, demon. And then right as she thinks she's going to win, she loses.
Yeah.
And
so they do a fun, another fake out.
Yeah.
A fake out escape, which that's also a little bit of a horror movie trope.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it was too bad in this because I feel like that's a vague enough, like, the hero thinks they're out, but they're not.
I legitimately, again, I fell for it every time. I'm as dumb as it gets because I'm like, I believed it. I thought she crushed. I thought
You're
she
like,
nailed
she
it.
beat the monster. She's done.
She beat the monster. I honestly thought, here's what I would have loved is she beats the monster. She goes back. Now she has to like put her life back together. Her fiance is done with her.
Fuck that dude. He's the most useless.
He's not a very compelling part of this film.
He's supportive in he would be supportive and a good fiance in a world where there wasn't really a smile demon.
Yes, exactly. And I was actually having this debate with some mutual friends of ours right after the film last night. And I was like, so she has a fiance, even though she spends most of the film with her ex-boyfriend cop. She does have a fiance who is trying to understand. He is trying to help. He's trying to help in a very, what women would say, a very manly, a very masculine way of like, you got a problem, let me just solve it. She's like, no, I just need you to listen to my crazy monster woman bullshit.
Yeah.
And I just want you to empathize. But there is a line in there about her, that she mentions to her ex-boyfriend in a moment of vulnerability. She does mention that she tends to erect walls around her in her interpersonal relationships.
Mm-hmm.
That's what ended her relationship with the ex-boyfriend. Because he wasn't okay with it. The new fiance seems fine with it. That's actually part of it. They have this perpetual distance between them because she is always emotionally distant, and he's either too dumb to notice or he's also fine with it.
He's a kind of like a fair weather friend, right? Like he's fine as long as everything's fine. And she's even says that to him at one point, I think.
She does, and in a very unfair. I don't know. Again, we don't see much of their relationship. We don't get to see much of this guy. I didn't think her criticism of him was particularly fair. I also
he is just trying to help. I mean,
yes.
What if someone in my life came up to me and was like, "I'm seeing a demon," I'm like, "I'll get you help."
Well, that's the other thing. That's what the friends I watched this movie with were all women, and of course they had a very like woman perspective of like he should have just listened, and it's like, yeah, we know that now, but also
we know that, yeah,
but also don't forget, it's the real life version of this is if I go to my mom or if I go to my parents, I'm like, I'm seeing wild demons, like they're coming to get me, blah blah blah, all this kind of stuff happens. My parents' responsibility to best take care of me as the only people in my life that are capable of taking care of me. Because I'm not capable of taking care of myself if I'm legitimately having these kinds of visions.
Mm-hmm.
Is they have to do something. I'm no longer. I've given up my like
autonomy.
I've given up my credibility. I can't be like, I'm seeing demons everywhere. Anyway, I gotta run. I'm doing fine. I'm taking care of myself. It's me and the demons. Whatever. It's like
I'm seeing demons, but I figured it out. I'll be back.
Like it's like having a bad roommate. It's not what that is. When you're saying that to somebody that cares for you, you're signaling to them like this person isn't capable of taking care of themselves, and I, as the person who loves them more than anyone in the world, I have to. I'm in charge of taking care of them now, and what a person should do is like submit to that. Yeah, you know what's best. I'm going to trust that you know what's best because I love and trust you, and I can't trust myself.
Yeah,
that's what would be easiest. But people don't want to do that. People don't want to give up on people. They all think that they know what's best.
Yeah, I mean, in this situation, though, of course, she is right.
I mean, I guess, yeah.
There really is a smile demon.
That's true. Again, that's why it's not a fair. It's not a fair.
In retrospect, of course.
That's kind of what I don't like. Couching it as like a mental health study or this whole topic, because people come out of this film talking about this is why mental health is such an important conversation to have. That's why the NFL has to do mental health awareness week, and everybody on the field has to wear fucking green socks or whatever the mental health color is. It's all this kind of like performative shit, but it's in this movie, but the real life version of it is not. Oh, just believe people that say they're seeing demons.
Yeah, that shouldn't be a lesson that anyone takes away from this or any film.
Yeah, she isn't right. She's lucky she's in a horror film where she gets to be right.
Well, I wouldn't call her lucky.
Hey,
but
being right's the most important thing. All right, everybody knows that.
Yeah.
So I don't care what kind of demon kills me as long as I was right about it. As long as I get to say I told you so.
The film's twist. One of the big reveals of the film takes place in the family home. Where we learn that her mother was losing it and had at one point taken a bunch of sleeping pills.
Overdosed on drugs. Yeah.
Overdosed on drugs, and like probably barbiturates or whatever, and was dying and asking for her help, and she just essentially let her mother die as a child. Like I'm not saying it's her fault, but it's like the idea is that this is what happened, and this is the guilt that she's hanging on to, and why she can't not help people.
So right, which exactly, and I honestly thought after watching that, I found it a little weak. I didn't see that part as that big thing. It took me a little while to connect the dots that, she blames herself for this or whatever. Because a couple things. One, you just see her walk away or run away. So at first you're like, well, she could be running to a phone. But the thing I thought is like, it's too late. And B, she's a scared child. She doesn't even know how to deal with this.
Yeah.
And it's not like the mom, mom saying like, call 911, get an ambulance out here, make sure they have our address. It was just like, get me some help, and she runs away scared from her mom, who looks like ashen and bony faced, and just a withering a husk of a person. Yeah. So again, I didn't necessarily. That didn't hit home for me too much as like, it's her fault her mom dies. That didn't even occur to me until she said it about herself, or the smile demon played it, threw it in her face,
threw it at her towards the end.
And I was like, I don't know, I'm watching it again. If I'm in her position, smile demon's throwing it at me, I was like, no, it's not my fault.
Well, that's the funny thing is, and interestingly, as audience members, we really can sympathize with her, and like you're saying, like it's not her fault. Like she's a kid, like that's not the kid's job to save their overdosing mother, and also like at this point her mother has become a monster to her, you know, and she's probably like
right,
maybe a little selfishly but understandably like wants this ordeal to be over.
100%. What good was this mom gonna be if she wakes up from this if the overdose was unsuccessful, she's back, she comes back, she's turning over a new leaf, she's like, it was the end of the line. I could tell in a very few, quick number of seconds. I give up quickly. I was like, this is too much.
Yeah. Well, and I think the important thing though is not so much how we see it, but how she sees it too. Like she's been blamed herself for this thing that happened with her mother the entire time, unfairly to herself.
Yeah, she shouldn't have blamed herself. She could have just not done that, and then wouldn't have been in this position.
And she figures it out and has some great closure just in time to be killed by a horrifying monster.
Well, and now let's get to, so we briefly mentioned Men earlier, and I mentioned I didn't love the ending of it. And for the same reason I didn't love the ending of this. Well, I don't like the monster.
Oh, you didn't like the monster design?
Yeah, I don't like to see the monster
at all,
ever.
Interesting.
I don't, maybe not never, but for the most part, she's having these visions, she's having these hallucinations. It's very scary. And then her mom gets out of bed, and then the mom is 10 feet tall and fee-fi foaming through the house, and it's just like, okay, well now you're fighting a monster. Now I'm just like, well, hopefully Geralt shows up with his sword and cuts the monster's head off. Like
it does take it, to a slightly different, because the thing which we're just calling the Smile Demon, has spoken to her before, here and there.
In the course of the last week.
But it really is just like, it's like she's there with it, and they're both, it's talking to her.
Yeah, now they're having a conversation. It went from whisper again. She's doing the blowout. She's intently on her headphones. She thinks she hears a whisper of something. She sees the demon. She's hearing whispers. She's hearing stuff like that. And now she's standing in front of an 8-foot tall monster who is they're just having a conversation with each other. At that point, it's like, oh, I'm no longer being hunted by something I can't really see. I'm face to face. It's now a wrestling match. I'm face to face with something, and I'm way less scared of a boxing match than I am of like, I might get shot out of the blue. Those two things are way different. And so when I see the monster and I see her, they're in this face-off, they're shouting at each other, it's not my fault, you'd love to smile, whatever the hell they're saying, I'm just like, okay, well now that we have isolated the monster, at this point you kick one of the Ghostbusters traps out and catch it. That's the thing. It's only a scary ghost when it's hiding in the walls. Once we have it in the beams, we can just capture it. We know how that works.
Yeah. The least scary part of any horror movie, or not the least scary part, but a lot of times when you see a monster, it kind of loses some of that magic in it.
I think so, yeah. And then of course the monster design, again, we're still in spoilers, folks. But the monster rips off its skin, and then it's just like, you can see the muscle, and it has a bunch of mouths.
Yeah, it's like smiles on smiles. I thought that was fun.
It was cool. I mean, again, it's cool looking. It's an interesting monster design.
And I like the implication of that, of like, it's the smiles of every person that it's killed.
Yeah, it just keeps killing people, and it keeps taking their teeth, so it has like, it has like 40, or it has like 20 rows of mouths. Like
it's cool. It's
if the
cool.
Xenomorph from Alien kept having little mouths all the way down, I think that might have been a Family Guy joke. I think that was a Family Guy joke.
Where it's like a mouth and then another mouth,
and then the very last one just latches onto a straw and drinks a cocktail like in a bar.
Yeah,
or something. I think that was a Family Guy joke. But that's what it looks like to me. And again, once you're face to face with a tangible monster that's just right there, it's like, well, now I'm not scared anymore. Personally, That's why most of the horror movies I like the most are ones where people are the thing. That's why I loved X and Pearl.
Oh,
There's nothing supernatural about that. Our villain is a human being, and just like in real life, just like every villain we do have is a human being.
Yeah.
And you can't tell. There's never a time when it's like, is this a person or is this a monster? We genuinely can't tell because we can't tell on the surface if somebody's a monster or not, unless they have a particular mustache or a particular symbol on their arm or forehead. There's no way to really tell if someone's a monster. Mm-hmm. Anybody could be. That's why that always kind of resonates more with me.
I think that a monster like the smile monster, like the smile demon, or something like the monster from It Follows, it gets scarier the less you know about it. Like, and I like that they did that with this. They didn't, there's no scene where they're in a library and they're like the ancient smile demon Gaboogle, we have to do this ritual to banish him, and they have like a picture or like an old woodcut of a demon or whatever. So they left it ambiguous. I think they could have done less. I think they could have shown it a little less, maybe just brief flashes. I think you can have a lot of fun if you just kind of give a hint of what something looks like, and then let people's imaginations run wild with it.
That's the same thing at the end of that movie, Men. Once it's giving birth to these just deformed monsters in slow motion.
I liked that part.
It's interesting. It's visually compelling, but that's as a guy who was scared, as a film theater,
sort of drew you out of it.
I'm no longer like, well, I can run away from this. I can run away from a slow moving. This dude goes 4 feet and gives birth to a smaller, weirder version of himself, and then goes another 4 feet. I can get away from that. I can get away from that snail easily. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I even wrote, like, never show the monster that clearly. I this is a mean one. I'm not going to say that.
The fake out.
Fake out.
We talked a little bit about it.
Yeah, we have the fake out. The only note I wrote about it was the Stallone/Arnold walk away from the explosion. Because the way she kills the monsters by covering it in the 1850s oil, and then the whole house is exploding, and she's slow motion walking back to her car like a badass. And I was like, okay,
you're like, all right.
And then she gets in her, and then the whole fake out sequence happens, so that's fine. But anyway, yeah, she actually ends up pouring that gasoline on herself.
Yeah, she's I guess taken over by the monster.
Yeah.
Just as her ex-boyfriend batters down the door.
Yep, ex-boyfriend cop. He finally figured out where she went to go hide because he was looking for her. She thinks she's gonna kill herself by herself. This dude shows up just in time to see it and have it be passed on to him.
And the final shot of the movie is her burning alive, reflected in his eyes. I was like, you might have time to grab the matches. Just try to grab the matches from her, bro.
Yeah, you might have time to do something.
He just stands there. He's clearly shocked, but
I had a thought, because we learned from our incarcerated friend that the way you can get rid of this is by killing somebody in front of somebody else. So my initial thought is like, hey, he's a cop. He'll probably kill somebody tomorrow.
Yeah, and it's going to be on a bunch of people's cell phone footage.
Yeah, he'll kill somebody tomorrow. It'll go to a bunch of people, and then he'll still get off anyway, so he won't have to go to prison. He'll be fine.
Yeah, he's going to shoot like an unarmed black man at the next trappic stop.
Yeah, he's going to be chill.
Yeah.
So he's not even stressing this.
Too realistic.
The other, well, I guess we can. Unless you have anything else you think it's going to be spoiler-ish.
No, I don't think so.
Cool. So we're going to end spoilers right here. And then end with a couple last thoughts, and then I guess our recommendations. I would say moral of the story, don't hang out with your ex.
Yeah. Moral of the story, don't hang out with your ex. If someone says there's a demon, they're telling the truth.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. He obviously is like loves her, wants her back, but I don't know. This isn't true. I just wrote a joke. If my ex-girlfriend calls me on fire, I'm just hanging up. Like there's nothing I can do to help. I'm not the guy that should be helping.
They're not going to come to you and say, "Hey, listen, I'm getting chased by a drums demon."
Yeah, I need you to research.
I need you to research
all the demon rhythms. Where it's like, look, I don't know.
That sounds like a cool movie.
That actually is kind of cool. Like you play the forbidden. It's kind of cheesy. You play the forbidden pattern, and that summons. Yeah, you could do that with like certain. You could make that. It would just be disrespectful, but you could make that with certain religious. Because there are like religious ceremonies in like Cuba and other like Latin American countries and Africa, of course, where different rhythms are like correspondent to different deities.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so that's what like Santeria is all about.
Oh,
so,
yeah,
so
yeah.
You play patterns for Yemaya, or you play patterns for Ochun, and all these different like
that's really cool
deities that they were African like gods, and then they became the Spanish like imposed Christianity on them. So then like, okay, these are our saints, and the Spanish are like, oh, that's cool. You can have saints. You can have saints, and it's kind of a backdoor to keeping their old tradition. But I wouldn't know how to write that without it being like, just like, dude, are you just?
Yeah, that might not be our story to tell.
Yeah, you're just disrespecting like these people's religion. Yeah. So, I did get my Geralt reference in, so that's good.
Good.
Because once you've seen the monster, it's like just call the Witcher. He could do it.
It did look a little bit like a monster that would be on The Witcher.
Yeah, it looked a lot like it. Yeah, so that's about everything I had. I mean, we don't, the like we kind of mentioned. This isn't a spoiler, but the fiance is kind of a non-entity. He's not too crucial.
No. Yeah, he's sort of he's sort of in and out. Kind of plays the cliche.
They're right.
Clueless boyfriend.
Plenty of like emotional distance between the two of them. They didn't really connect, and they couldn't go on this journey together.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned this movie borrowed a lot. You said you were telegraphing some of your real feelings. I'm getting the impression that you didn't love this.
I didn't love it. No. I thought it was fun. I had a fun time watching it. I think honestly, there's so many. Let's be charitable and call them homages to other horror films. That it's a fun movie to watch as a horror aficionado, and it's fun. It's a fun, scary movie for people to watch. I don't think anybody's going to be talking about it in 20 years. I think it's the culmination of all of these art house movies. We're entered a point where someone can say like, let's make a movie all about a monster where the monster's really trauma. And that gets a real wide theatrical release, and that's not just like an indie art house movie. This is like a that's a big movie.
That's true. This this movie is almost what they were parodying in Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. Did you see that?
I haven't yet. I want to.
It's the same thing I mentioned earlier. The kind of overuse. I personally think the proliferation of psychological talk into like everyday speak. I think it's bad. I hate the way a lot of discussion is nowadays, especially with regards to this pseudo psychology and all kinds of stuff.
Oh,
I hold very little regard for psychology in general, but the fact that it's become so pervasive and it's watered down and people misuse things and
everyone's using buzzwords or
it's all jargon,
trauma dumping or
and the way people like talk about stuff like on social media, TikTok and Twitter and other places, it's especially it's especially I don't know, it's I think it's a bad thing. So yeah, Bodies, Bodies, Bodies I thought was really it was funny, it was good. And I love the way that they were like satirizing the way people talk, and this kind of this distance, this corporate like this corporate inhumane speak that people use. And there's not a lot of humanity once we address everything as like
it's
the
all
underlying psychological whatever, which again is mostly bullshit. It's a way to maintain distance, and it's a way to be less engaged as a human with somebody else. So I thought Bodies was good about that. And then this movie's the
opposite.
The opposite. It's taking like what if trauma actually was the thing that was hurting us.
Trauma is not just a monster. It's, it's like grief in the Babadook, or a lot of these others where it's like the monster is a stand-in for a very real monster.
Right. Yeah, greed, like the big green monster is eating me up, So anyway, I thought it was interesting. I liked it. I don't love the jump scares because I'm gonna be honest. I'm fucking so susceptible to them. I am such a baby, so I'm very susceptible to them. And then all the fake jump scares and all that kind of stuff. I don't love that kind of thing. I don't love what we talked about at the end. But I still think if you're a person who loves being scared, this movie's great for you.
Yeah, it's fun, and it's definitely passable. It's not gonna win any awards in my book, but I'd show it to people again. I'd watch it again.
So you'd recommend it?
Yeah, I'd recommend it.
All right, then I'll do the same. I always go binary. I do recommend it or I don't.
That's fair. Yeah,
because that's just the way I speak to people. My first co-host, my buddy Steven, he was a numbers guy. He was like, I'd give it a 6 or a 5. And first of all, I hated his numbers because he would give something, this movie's a 6. It's not that good. But Godfather 2 is a 7. Like, how dare you put those two? His numbers were just not right. But I also, if somebody asks me, oh, should I see that movie? I'm not going to be like 6. Again, I'm going to say yes or no. So that's what I want to do. But if you have another way to express yourself,
listen. This is that's a great way to say it, because I will say see it. I won't lie about my reservations that I have about it being a great film or whatever. But but I definitely would recommend it.
Yeah, I'd say check it out. I thought it was interesting enough. If you are not a huge horror fan, you're not going to recognize any of these cliche tropes that bother our expert over here.
And if you are a horror fan, you can have a really good time pointing them all out to your friends and sounding really smart.
There you go. And and if you go into it being like, yeah, this dude made a love letter to horror movies and he just borrowed all theirs, I thought the one scene where they got attacked by birds was a little weird, and
oh shit, yeah, gosh.
And then the other scene where the smile monster grabs an axe and hits the door and it sticks its head in and smiles real big. Here's the demon.
Here's Smiley. Yeah,
here's Smiley. I thought that was a little cliche, but again, I'm no expert.
Yeah. Totally forgot about those scenes.
Yeah, and
thanks for reminding
me. I can't even think of enough horror movies. I already used my 2 references.
Those were your 2, yeah.
Those are the 2 horror movies I know.
There's that part where in the very end, the smile monster grabs a big barrel and she says, "Smile, you son of a bitch."
Yep, exactly. And then that we talked about that one fake ending, but there's the other fake ending where she gets into her spaceship in her underwear and flies away. And she's like, I made it.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to freeze myself. And then she freezes herself and wakes up and she's back in the fight. Anyway, folks, he could go on forever. I've got 2 more in me, so we'll call it here before we both run out. Go check out Smile. Thanks once again for watching Let's Get Trashed After Dark in the After Dark Studios. My buddy Andres, anything you...
Thanks for having me.
All right.
That's it.
Thanks
happy to do this anytime.
Please, we're going to do plenty more. Thanks for doing it again with me, buddy. As always, you can follow me Instagram at Get Trashed Pod, at Get Trashed Pod on Twitter, at Let's Get Trashed. I don't even remember. You can find it's very findable. Same thing at Nick Tazo on Twitter, all that kind of stuff. Thanks everybody. Have a great night.